My oblivious friend is ruining his life as fast as possible because of a girl who is the love of his life even though she has cheated on him more times than I can count, so I am ditching him just like she did. My friend, Mark, 18M, has recently been having a lot of relationship troubles with his girlfriend, Leah, 18F. They got together back in February of this year, when we were still in high school, and their relationship has become a complete train wreck. Mark was, and still is, head over heels for Leah. He has told me and my other friends that she is definitely the one and that he eventually plans on marrying and settling down. This all seemed both premature and immature to me, but it's beside the point. Leah, on the other hand, is a nightmare. She's cheated on Mark several times now, and every time she does, she gives Mark some lame story about him not being supportive enough, or that she made a mistake, or that she wanted to see him get jealous for her sake. He gobbles it up every time. According to Mark, Leah largely acts like this because her father was very abusive towards her and her mother, and therefore she carries a lot of trauma with her. Mark constantly reiterated that he wants to help her work past that, but things haven't really been going his way. Since September, Leah has been seeing this other guy, Derek, 22M, and she's 100% infatuated with him. I only know this based on what my other friends, and Mark, have been telling me because I was in another state for college. Mark has been arguing a lot with Leah about Derek, and she has threatened to leave Mark if he doesn't just simply accept her for who she is. He did. Not only that, he and Leah have entered what he calls a semi-open relationship. This means, according to Mark, that Leah is allowed to see Derek as much as she wants, but Mark isn't allowed to see anyone else. This is because Leah feared Mark would become emotionally invested in them and leave her. Mark begrudgingly agreed to this and has been seething for months about it. Since about November, Leah has been seeing Derek more than she does Mark. While Mark doesn't admit to it, our other friends have told me that she is essentially in a full-time relationship with Derek and only comes to Mark for money and emotional support. Fast forward to this week, and I'm back home for the break. Mark started texting me on Saturday, saying that he hated Derek for trying to steal his girl and wanted to beat his butt that night. He said that he wanted me to come along since all of our other friends couldn't. They made up excuses not to go. They have told me this, but Mark doesn't know. Since I just got back home the day before, I was still exhausted, so I point-blank refused Mark's request. I told him that Leah was a lost cause, and I wasn't going to fight some people I'd never seen for her. Mark started begging me, saying that Leah is the love of his life and that he needs my help. I refused again. He then says that he'll go on his own, but I told him that he probably shouldn't. I woke up Sunday morning to more than 300 messages on my phone from Mark and all our friends. Long story short, Mark went over to Derek's place to bring Leah back. He ended up getting his butt kicked by Derek and his friends. They only stopped when Leah asked them to. I called Mark and told him that he should probably talk to a lawyer or something, but he refused since Leah asked him to not escalate the situation. I then told him that he was being dumb, and this triggered him so much. He started saying how I was a snake for not backing him up and how I was a fake friend. I was so irritated at this point, so I told Mark that he deserved to get jumped and that it made sense why Leah preferred Derek over him. He hung up on me, and we haven't spoken since. Since then, my other friends have been saying that I'm a jerk for how I handled the conversation, but they do agree Mark is not the brightest. Update 1. Some of my friends and I ended up going out with Mark to see how he was doing. We didn't want to go to his parents' place since Leah was now living there with him and we didn't want to see her. He does look very beaten up, black eye, bruises all over his face and arms, busted lip, etc., but he was surprisingly in a good mood and even insisted that I didn't have to apologize for how I spoke last time. He told us that Derek ended up dumping Leah a few days after the fight. Apparently, he asked Leah to dump Mark. She refused, and they argued, "I'll spare you most of it." Their conversation ended with Leah being kicked out of his apartment in the middle of the night, and Mark had to come pick her up. He has refused his parents' and our request to escalate the situation at Leah's request. Mark has said that Leah has been very depressed about Derek dumping her and spends a lot of the days crying. Mark just says he's incredibly thankful to be there to comfort her and emotionally support her. He keeps on saying that when it comes down to it, Leah chose him over Derek, and nothing can take that away. Like I said above, Leah has decided to return to living with Mark. She can technically go to her mother's house but doesn't want to. Here's the real kicker. Mark says that he has a very good reason to believe Leah might be in the early stages of pregnancy now. My friends and I assumed the child was Derek's, but Mark insisted that regardless, it would be his kid. We asked him to get paternity testing, and he has refused since he can't do that to Leah. We've told him that the relationship is toxic, but he didn't want to hear it since that was a matter of perspective. Also, his parents have no clue about the potential pregnancy. He says that in the future, he doesn't want us to say anything about Leah unless it is the absolute truth, his speech of singing her praises. My other friends and I all left pretty stunned, and I'm thinking that at this stage, I'll slowly be removing myself from Mark's life. It sucks since I've known him for a long time and do enjoy his company. But I don't think I'll be able to remain friends with him in good faith if I'm not able to speak honestly to him. Update 2. Since the winter break ended, I have returned to college, so I haven't seen him since the day he spoke with me and the other guys. All the information I've been receiving about him has thus come from our WhatsApp group or what the other guys have been telling me. I've only texted Mark himself twice since then, and both instances were about things unrelated to Leah. However, there are some updates. As of last weekend, Mark confirmed on our group chat that Leah is indeed pregnant. He is excited about becoming a dad, Also, we'll probably never know if the child is his or Derek's since Mark has rejected the idea of a paternity test and asked us to not bring it up again. However, my friends told me that they are fairly certain the kid's Derek's based on the timeline. Mark and Leah are still living with his parents and will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. Mark works part-time in addition to taking some online courses at a college. Therefore, he and Leah are still largely being supported by his parents. Mark did message us telling us that his parents did argue with him a bit, but he managed to convince them to keep Leah and a child with them. He also told us that Leah told him that she preferred staying with him instead of going back home to her mom. It's only speculation, but some of the other guys and I assume that Mark may threaten no contact with his own parents if they don't accept Leah and the kids, since he hinted at that during our last conversation. Mark has also been trying to convince Leah to go into therapy, but so far she has refused all of his persuasions. On the bright side, Mark has told us Leah is no longer interested in open relationships, possibly due to her fallout with Derek, and is dedicated to only him. Now that I'm home for summer vacation, I was able to catch up on all the Mark BS. Firstly, Mark and Leah got married. It was a very small, town hall type wedding just to get a marriage certificate. This happened about a month and a half ago. Since then, Mark has become a complete puss. He regularly fights with his stepmom and dad since he thinks they make Leah feel unwelcomed. It got so bad that they had Mark and Leah move out to an apartment on the other side of town. They give them about $2,000 a month to cover their living expenses, and Mark works part-time to cover everything else they need. Since getting married, all Mark ever posts on our group chat is how amazing Leah is, and how wrong we were for trying to get him to leave. TBH, I find it so annoying that I've put the group on mute. Some of the other guys and I have since made another group chat with everyone except Mark in it because we are all tired of his BS. Mark has also started treating some of the other guys in the group like crap. This one guy, Alan, helped Mark and Leah move to the apartment, and then Mark started accusing him of trying to make a move on pregnant Leah. Alan of course denied it, but Mark still accuses him from time to time. It is so uncalled for. TBH, it ruined the entire group's opinion of Mark. A few days ago, when I got back home from school, I decided to drop in and see Mark in person. He was chill but then started going about how he again thought Alan was trying to move in on Leah. It was awkward. I told him he was imagining it and nobody aside from him would want Leah. He kind of jokingly kind of seriously called me a jerk, and I haven't spoken to him since then. Thank God Leah wasn't home at the time because I didn't want to see her. Myself and the other guys sometimes joke that Derek needs to come back and set Mark straight again. But on a serious note, I have decided to no longer have any contact with Mark, and if I post in the future again about trying to build up a relationship with him or interacting with him in any way, I'll be a hypocrite, a lying puss. Leah is now very noticeably pregnant. Mark told us that the doctor told them that the due date is probably going to be in mid-August. Nobody has heard of Derek, but rumor has it Leah tried to contact him again a few times, though he ghosted her when he found out about the pregnancy. Make sure to follow for more crazy stories.